Chapter 1076. Samsara's Weakness. Laughing Song took heavy damage. Zhang Zhao's dazzling 100 Blossoms wasn't someone who only knew how to protect his teammates through a light screen. After Sun Jeping retired, he had to be the main attacker and a support for his teammates. He had put Team 100 Blossoms on his back and had carried them forward. Now, he had reliable teammates helping restrict the opponents, allowing Zhang Jiali to concentrate on attacking and dealing serious damage to his target. No one would have imagined that Samsara would be torn apart and be forced to sell their healer as soon as the match started. Zhang Batao's empty waves immediately went back to rescue their healer. However, those who were following Samsara this match, whether it was the viewers or the cameraman, couldn't help but look for a certain player. Where's Zhou Zikai? Where's his Cloud Piercer? Zhou Zikai was obviously still alive. His Cloud Piercer had decisively turned back. Rescuing their healer was obviously Samsara's biggest priority at the moment. But under the explosiveness of the 100 Blossoms style, Zhou Zikai's long-ranged attacks were significantly weakened. He was unable to clearly make out his target's location. He could only rely on his intuition and instinct to attack. In comparison, Zhang Batao's empty waves was closer. Moreover, for spellblades, whether it was their magic wave swords or magic wave formations, all of them were ranged AoE attacks. Even if he didn't know his target's exact location, he could still throw out his skill in the general direction. The moment empty waves turned around, Zhang Batao saw something flicker from below him. He immediately looked down and saw that a grenade had rolled to his feet. Zhang Batao hastily leapt backwards. As empty waves was pushed back by the shockwave from the grenade, sounds of gunfire could be heard. Bullets rained down on him. -9 degrees? When did he get here? Zhang Batao was surprised. A strange feeling arose in his heart. He suddenly realized that after Qin Muyun's -9 degrees shot 2 times when the two sides collided, he had no impression of what -9 degrees had done since then. This type of invisibility shouldn't exist in the finals. In the finals, everyone was fighting with all they had. How could there be a cheerleader among them? But the moment he tried to rescue their healer, Qin Muyun's -9 degrees suddenly appeared. And Zhang Batao didn't seem to know when he got into such a perfect position. A rain of gunfire forced Zhang Batao back. After Desert Dust and Dark Thunder tossed aside the two characters that they had been pinning down, they rushed towards this location. Zhang Zhao's attacks were just the prelude. Next was the follow-up. Tyranny seemed to be planning on directly sending off Samsara's healer in one go. How could Samsara let Tyranny do as they pleased? Zhang Batao's empty waves slashed with an earthquake sword, blocking off these two characters. Even though spellblades wore high defense plate armor and were swordsmen, extremely close combat wasn't their strong point. When Zhang Batao saw Desert Dust close in, he instinctively stepped back twice. However, Desert Dust's charge had been a bluff. As soon as empty waves retreated, Desert Dust seized this opening to directly pass him. Lin Jingyan didn't fall behind. His Dark Thunder ran even more smoothly than Desert Dust. I was tricked. Han Wenking's bluff didn't only trick Zhang Batao. Most of the viewers were astonished when they saw Desert Dust's bluff. This wasn't how the champion of Tyranny played. For the championship title, how much had Tyranny's players sacrificed? Zhang Jiali carried the burden of a blackened name. Lin Jingyan abandoned his position as the core of a team. Even Han Wenking had let go of his courageous and stubborn style that had never changed since the start of his career. All of them had changed. The only thing that hadn't changed was their desire to be champions. Forward. The two fighter classes entered the fray. Zhang Zhao's dazzling 100 Blossoms suddenly turned. A light flashed from his gun and flew towards Zhou Zikai's Cloud Piercer. Team Tyranny's coordination was loose yet tight, completely controlling the pace of the battle. Tyranny fought ferociously. However, their fighting was not at all reckless. Rapidly closing in for a melee battle seemed a bit impatient for an away team. However, Team Tyranny's speed wasn't just fast. It was a speed that reached the pinnacle. The two sides quickly entered a chaotic brawl. What was Samsara's home game advantage? It was their familiarity and utilization of the map. But by rapidly forcing the two sides to fight an intense battle, Samsara wasn't given any time to utilize the map and utilize their tactics. Samsara could only rely on their instinct and intuition to counter. This was the importance of having the initiative. In this match, Team Tyranny gave every team a thorough lesson on how to quickly and tyrannically seize the initiative. 4 minutes and 47 seconds into the match, the home team's cleric, Laughing Song, was killed. No one could have expected this result. Healers were too crucial in a team competition. They were absolutely the most protected team members. In a high-level match, attacking the healer was an extremely important goal. However, the strategies for that were usually to restrict the healer. It was very rare for a healer to be directly taken out in one go. But in the finals, in this match that represented the pinnacle of glory, Team Tyranny achieved it in 4 minutes 47 seconds. Was this a record? Data needed to be pulled up to check. However, Samsara's home stadium was already in complete silence. Everyone in the crowd was dumbstruck. Everyone knew what it meant to have the healer taken away. If this wasn't an important match, people could understand if the team typed GG and then forfeited. However, this was the finals. It was the final stage after 1 year of struggles. No one would choose to give up so easily. Without a healer, it could be said that Samsara had less burden on them. At least, they didn't have to constantly need to defend a key character. When Laughing Song fell, Samsara immediately let loose a fierce counterattack. No one held back. Samsara quickly obtained solid results. One of Tyranny's players fell, Chin Muyun's -9 degrees. But a strange feeling once again arose in Zhang Batao's heart. When -9 degrees was there, it was like he couldn't feel his existence. Now that -9 degrees was truly gone, he felt like nothing seemed to have really changed. But they had killed an enemy player. How could such an important breakthrough not have any impact? This feeling made him feel too uneasy. Zhang Batao tried hard to calm himself and examine the situation carefully. They had no healer, so they needed to end things quickly. However, ending things quickly required a plan to succeed. What? He's already attacking. Zhou Zekai's Cloud Piercer didn't seem to have any intentions of resetting the tempo. He continued to launch a frenzy of attacks so much so that Zhang Batao felt like it was a bit excessive. However, in the next second, he no longer thought that. When he examined the situation again, he realized that Team Tyranny had pulled back into a fully defensive position. Team Samsara needed to be fast, but Team Tyranny wouldn't let them. Zhou Zekai had seen through this point, so instead of resetting, he continued to increase the speed to break Tyranny's tempo. Can it be done? Zhou Zekai's charge through the enemy lines had opened up the battle countless times, but this time, against the steady defense from Tyranny's 4 gods, while Zhou Zekai's assault was as fierce as ever, it was unable to open up the situation. Zhang Zhao's 100 Blossom style was a huge hindrance to a sharpshooter, who needed absolute precision to attack. Rush in and fight with Gun Fu? It wasn't like Zhou Zekai had never done that before. However, Tyranny had the number 1 close combat fighter Han Wenqing and his king of fighting, Desert Dust. Employing Gun Fu to compete with Han Wenqing was definitely not a smart idea. Team Samsara's weakness has been exposed, Yi Shu suddenly said. He had been quietly watching the match the entire time. What is it? Chen Guo immediately asked. They lack an attacker that can charge forward and break open the situation, Yi Shu said. Don't they have Lu Boyuan, Wu Qi, and Du Ming? Chen Guo asked. Grappers don't have very good movement skills. However, they need to get close to display their combat power. Just trying to close in is difficult enough already. As Yi Shu explained, Chen Guo looked at the match again. She discovered that Lu Boyuan's chaotic Cloud Mountain was having a rough time. Grappler wore leather armor. Their movement speed was considered fast, but trying to break through with just movement speed alone would be extremely difficult. As for assassins, I don't think I'll need to talk too much about them. They're not a class that charges into battle, Yi Shu said. Wu Qi's assassin, Cruel Silence, seemed to be in an even rougher spot than chaotic Cloudy Mountains. He was searching for an opening. However, Tyranny wasn't giving him any. As a result, it just looked like he was doing nothing, circling around the battle. As for Du Ming, his skill isn't quite there. Quote, for Du Ming, his class wasn't the big issue, but Du Ming himself was a bit of a problem. Yi Shu was quite polite in his evaluation. Getting rid of quite would probably have been more accurate. Starting from when he closed in on Tyranny, Du Ming's Blade Master seemed to be in a panic. After closing in, he was hit by a brick from Lin Jingyan and then a punch from Han Wenqing. If his ability to escape wasn't good, he might have been dragged directly into Team Tyranny. Team Tyranny calmly played the long game with Samsara. Samsara tried again and again to break through, but they were unable to shake Tyranny's defense. When Tyranny's sixth player, Bai Yanfei, and his elementalist arrived, Tyranny's defense became even more solid. In the end, Samsara had no other choice but to attempt a suicide charge and find victory within chaos. However, Tyranny stood firm. Finally, the match ended with Tyranny winning 6-2 in the team competition. Tyranny turned around their loss in the group arena and won the away game. Champions? Tyranny won their away game. Next, they would have the home game advantage. This type of situation was too advantageous for them. Many media sources were already declaring Tyranny as the champions. The question mark after the word champions was an attempt to hide that. Who would have thought that 3 days later, in Team Tyranny's home game in City B, it was Samsara that won 11-7, overturning Tyranny's home game. Chapter 1077. Tyranny in Danger. The away game victory finally caused everyone to notice Samsara's consistency. This was a team that had worked together for 3 years. They supported each other, depended on each other. The members of the team had a deep trust in each other and worked very well as a unit. They had the same conviction, the same confidence. Their loss in their home game didn't cause them to lose faith. In their away game, they were powerful in how united they were, standing firm and fighting steadily, not at all affected by their loss in the first round. After 2 hours of competing, they had eventually taken down Tyranny. In this match, Samsara had displayed a tenacity and patience that didn't lose to the veterans. No matter if it was as an individual or as a team, every little thing was executed at its best. A faultless performance. A flawless victory. During the second day, the media's headlines all discussed how to describe Samsara's performance this round. This time, they had shown everyone that Samsara definitely wasn't a one-man team, but a unit. A unit that operated close to flawlessly. The reason that the power of this unit was magnified was because they were influenced by the previous match. The hindrance of Team Tyranny's Zhang Zhao's 100 Blossoms style on Zhou Zikai was exceptionally striking. Ranged combat meant he couldn't shoot accurately, but close combat meant he had to face a master of melee like Han Wenqing. Zhou Zikai, known as uncounterable, might not have fallen to a disadvantage in a direct face-off, but he had still been suppressed. Samsara had realized that this was where the problem lay, and thus focused more on operating as a team. The presence of the other members of the team suddenly became much more striking. In this match, Zhou Zikai uncharacteristically didn't give an explosive performance, but everyone witnessed Samsara's power as a team that didn't lose to any other team in the alliance. After 2 matches, the 2 teams were tied. The victory would be decided in the last match. 3 days later, it would be at Tyranny's home turf, but with random maps. Who would win? With the battle having reached this point, theoretical analysis was meaningless. The 2 teams were continuously rewriting what everyone knew about them, breaking through their limits and improving themselves each time. Everything would be decided on the field. The tickets for the final match in 3 days were nigh impossible to obtain. The match started exactly at 8 p.m., and the group arena came first as usual. The previous 2 group arenas were all won by Samsara and the results were both 5-4. Although Tyranny's veterans had a lot of experience and honed awareness, Samsara was a very mature team by now. The members of the team were all skilled and everyone had a lot of match experience. For the old veterans, this was the hardest sort of opponent to deal with. However, the difference of a single point didn't have much influence on the team competition. Under the new rules, the group arena was already being considered a starter to the real match. They wouldn't be too relaxed, but not too nervous either. But the situation that had remained stable for 2 rounds ended in this round. The winner of the group arena was still Samsara, but this time, they had won 5-3, ending the group arena at their 4th player. A 2-point deficit caused some commotion in the venue as Tyranny's fans began to become anxious. Looking at the overall situation, Samsara hadn't gotten any overwhelming lead in any of the face-offs. Samsara's 5-4 victory was slowly accumulated through each fight. It was this sort of situation that made people feel insecure. This meant that the entire team had fallen to a disadvantage. What was wrong with Tyranny? The audience didn't know, they just hoped that the team could adjust and end up one step short of success. As for the Samsara fans in the venue, they were excited. This sort of beginning gave them the hope for victory. After the break between the two sections, the team competition began. The lineups for the teams didn't have any sort of change from the previous two matches. The map was unfamiliar, except for the fact that the two teams would spawn in opposing corners. After the characters loaded, Team Tyranny's characters charged forward at once, not bothering to look at their surroundings. The stadium fell into a stunned silence before it exploded with cheering. Didn't this scene happen in the away game that Tyranny won beautifully? Not hesitating, aiming for a direct frontal assault, and keeping the match at their pace? Tyranny's fans hoped for this scene to repeat itself and cheered for their team. On the other hand, Yishu frowned immediately upon seeing this. Is something wrong? Chen Guo had developed the habit of keeping an eye on Yishu's reactions during a match, getting Yishu to give a few words of explanation whenever there was a chance. They're too impatient, Yishu said. Didn't they play this way in the first match? Chen Guo said. That's different. In the first match, Samsara had the map advantage. Tyranny's playstyle was unexpected, eventually managing to negate their advantage and suppress Samsara's momentum, controlling the pace of the match. However, this map is unfamiliar to both sides and doesn't give an advantage to either side. Tyranny's current playstyle won't give them any benefits, Yishu said. They can't help it, Wei Chen suddenly said. Tyranny's stamina can't keep up. Stamina? No one would know better than Wei Chen as to how this affected a player's state. The long team competition in the Challenger League had given him too much strain, and then his performance after that had clearly slipped. Although the veterans of Tyranny were much younger than Wei Chen, how could the intensity of the Challenger League compare to the intensity of the playoffs? Not only were the playoffs more intense, the matches were spaced close together. The regular season was one match per week, but the playoffs had one match every 3 or 4 days. The playoffs were using the new rules too, so there was a large chance that 3 matches would have to be fought. Team Tyranny had fought 2 3-match battles in a row to enter the finals. As for Team Samsara, they had 2 2-match battles to decide the victor. Samsara had fought 2 fewer games than Tyranny. That meant they had a week to rest. Especially since, before the finals, Samsara had already rested for 3 days when Tyranny was fighting their third game against Tiny Herb. They hadn't even rested for 3 days before having to rush to City S to fight the well-rested Samsara. Tyranny had managed to take that game down in 1, but after returning to their home turf, they were defeated by Samsara after 2 hours of ceaseless fighting. Tyranny's stamina was probably already running low by the second game. After the exhaustion from a season of battles, then the successive intense battles of the playoffs, age was mercilessly dragging these tenacious veterans down. However, they didn't back down at all and wouldn't surrender. They knew that stalling wouldn't be good, so they fought in the last game with the same attitude and style from the first game, despite knowing that they wouldn't gain the same sort of advantage. Falling behind in the group arena might have been a way of preserving their stamina. They had to make sure that they had as much energy as possible for the team competition. Now it was time for their final battle. Maybe they were all exhausted, but their willpower pulled them through every action. Charge. Team Tyranny charged. As for Samsara, Samsara was displaying a completely different attitude to Tyranny. As soon as the match began, they didn't charge. It was obvious that they were trying to avoid a direct confrontation. Team Samsara's entire team moved tactically, swerving to Tyranny's flank. Team Tyranny had fiercely charged forth, but met no one. Those who realized the problem probably felt a chill in their hearts by now. For such a key battle, every detail would be carefully considered. Samsara's tactical decision at the beginning probably wasn't a coincidence. They had already realized that Tyranny's stamina was failing. Having fought them on the field, Samsara was better able to sense Team Tyranny's worsening state, maybe even better than Tyranny themselves. Thus, they weren't impatient for this match. They would slowly drag this out into an endurance match with Tyranny. The battle eventually turned this guess into reality. Samsara avoided a direct confrontation with Tyranny, continuously feigning to harass and wear Tyranny down with a top-ranged attacker like Zhou Zikai and a mid-ranged Aoi cannon like Zhang Batao's empty waves. In addition, there was Wu Qi, who would unleash a torrent of attacks whenever there was the slightest opening, as well as Liu Boyuan, who was great at single-target control. Whenever the grappler caught a target, he would throw the target away from the team. Samsara's lineup was great at harassment. Team Tyranny had Zhang Zhao's 100 Blossom style for cover, but the 100 Blossom style was exhausting for both the player and the character. So it would only be used at crucial times, not thrown out like free candy. Tyranny had managed to brute force their way at Samsara a few times, but despite getting an upper hand several times, they never managed to deal a critical blow to Samsara. Even worse, they still hadn't managed to make any changes to the situation at hand. If they didn't have problems with stamina, they could continue to go back and forth like this and keep the upper hand. However, everyone who could tell that this problem existed knew that with every advantage they managed to gain on the field, their situation worsened. Their focus was weakening, their reactions slowing, their mechanics stiffening. Willpower would help them endure, but only endure. You couldn't win a match by just enduring. They needed to perform at their peak if they wanted to beat the powerful Samsara. However, they couldn't do that anymore now. When another wave of harassment came, Team Tyranny was visibly a beat too slow, and this opening was immediately captured by Zhou Zikai. He, who hadn't performed explosively in the finals at all yet, finally gave the decisive blow in the final game. Cloud Piercer shot wildly, suddenly exploding into action and completely messed up Tyranny's formation. The other characters swarmed forth, taking this chance to storm Tyranny with their whole team. This time, Samsara didn't back away, fighting to the end. As for Tyranny, the veterans had long since reached their limit. Though they were still doing their best, their declining play caused them to expose many openings. In the team competition, Team Samsara won by a huge lead, 6-1. The final score of this match was 11-4. Team Samsara once again won the championships and became the second team to defend their title after Team Excellent era. And all of this took place at Tyranny's home stadium. The venue was silent. Chapter 1078. The same as always. It's over. Zhang Zhao's hand still remained on his keyboard and mouse. In fact, 5 minutes had passed since his dazzling 100 blossoms fell. The first to fall from Team Tyranny was Lin Jingyan's Dark Thunder, then it was dazzling 100 blossoms. He hovered in midair as a ghost as he continued to watch as Team Samsara pursued his team relentlessly. Qin Muyun's -9 degrees fell. Zhang Jinji's immovable rock fell. Only Han Wenqing's Desert Dust and Bai Yanfei's Rhoda were left. The two didn't give up and used up all their strength to take away Wu Qi's cruel silence from Samsara. The three then fell down together. Glory. Like in the online arena, this word also appeared after the end of the team competition. However, the glory didn't belong to him because he had lost again. How many times have I lost? Zhang Jiali was unwilling to think about it. He had given up everything. He had endured criticism from his fans and the torture in his heart. Just once is enough. He kept telling himself that. However, he was once again one step away. He just needed that one step, that one win. He had won countless times in his career. Why did he always fall here? Zhang Jiali couldn't believe it. He didn't know what to do, and even forgot what he should be doing at this moment. It was until someone started knocking from outside the player booths did he suddenly snap out of it. Han Wenqing, Tyranny's core who didn't know the word cower. Zhang Jinji, the master tactician who never made a mistake. There was also Lin Jingyan, who was let go of by his team and found himself a new place in Tyranny. He was also an old player who started in the second season like him. Also, Qin Muyan and Bai Yanfei. All of his teammates were standing outside. Everyone looked pained after losing the match. They all tried their best to hide it, but he could see through it. Lin Jingyan even managed to squeeze out a smile. It was probably the most unsightly smile Zhang Jiali had ever seen in his life. What a shame, Lin Jingyan even managed to speak. Even though he was upset, everyone in Tyranny knew that Zhang Jiali was suffering more than any one of them. This was because he carried such a heavy burden yet still fell at this same step again. Han Wenqing and Zhang Jinji had at least won the championships once. As for Lin Jingyan, it was the first time he had fought in the finals. He felt that he had already gained a lot by coming this far. Although he felt very regretful for their final loss, at least his mental burden wasn't as great as Zhang Zhao's. Only Zhang Jiali. Zhang Jiali wanted to speak, but stopped. Don't tell me you're going to retire again, Lin Jingyan spoke. That's no good. It's still too early for that. Right, we still have opportunities. Next season is going to arrive in the blink of an eye. Yeah, it already feels like it's tomorrow. I can't wait for it. Zhang Jiali opened his mouth to speak again. Everyone shut their mouths and looked at him. I wanted to say that I'm fine, Zhang Jiali said. Everyone looked at one another. When the match had finished, everyone apart from Zhang Jiali had walked out from the player booths and showed no signs of activity. At that moment, they even predicted the worst situation that could happen. It wasn't until Zhang Jiali walked out did everyone feel a bit relieved. Everyone started to comfort him, but he said he was fine. It's true, I'm fine. Zhang Jiali looked around him. It seemed as if everyone in the stadium was watching him as well. But he was fine. Even though he had carried a heavy burden, it all came from his own choice. Sun Jeping told him to clean up all those distracting thoughts in his mind. Zhang Jiali tried to do that, but he realized that he couldn't do so. Perhaps, only people like Sun Jeping were capable of doing that, right? In the end, Zhang Jiali wrapped up all those distracting thoughts and carried it on his shoulder. This was his method. He wasn't able to give up, but neither would he be weak. He would carry those things clearly on his back. As for now, he merely had another package to carry on his shoulders. Yeah, I'm fine. How about you guys? Are you guys alright? Zhang Jiali even managed to ask everyone in return. Everyone looked at one another once again. Since everyone's fine, let's go. Han Wenqing waved and turned around with no hesitation. The 6 members of Tyranny walked down the stadium with their heads held high. Applause started to ring in the stadium. Even though the fans felt disappointed in the loss, they had seen how the team performed. From beginning to end, they didn't see the team weaken or see them give up. They continued to fight and struggle. Their performance was worthy of the applause, so they didn't need to feel ashamed for their loss. The applause grew louder, and the 6 from Tyranny motioned towards the audience by waving their hands. Despite losing in the match, they wouldn't fall. No matter what burden they carried, that wouldn't ever happen. The audience was clapping, so the workers on site put down whatever they were doing to clap as well. Even members of Samsara, who won the championships, stood on the side and clapped. It was not for themselves, but for Tyranny. Despite losing the match, they won respect from every single person. An award ceremony was held on the stage for Samsara. Like last year, the team collected the trophy and didn't really celebrate. However, they were the second team to win the championships twice in a row after Excellent Era, so they might just create a new dynasty. This was a fact no one would ignore. In the press conference after the match, Team Tyranny went first. All 6 members that appeared in the team match sat on stage. They gazed at the reporters below them and realized that every one of them seemed to look more solemn than them. Can we start? In the end, it was the team captain, Han Wenqing, who asked first. It was a very regretful loss. Do you have anything to say? A reporter seized the opportunity to ask. It was regretful indeed, but there's no other way because there can only be one champion, Han Wenqing spoke. What are your thoughts on how each team performed? Someone asked. By losing the competition with a clear gap in the scores, Tyranny's performance needed to be deeply looked into. However, their situation was different from their first match. By the time the finals had reached this point, everyone had thought about the problem of Tyranny's players running out of stamina. The reporters were clear about this, otherwise, the team wouldn't receive such applause from losing, and their questions wouldn't be so courteous. Both sides worked very hard. I think no matter who won, both teams would have been worthy of the title, Han Wenqing said. As for the coming year, does Tyranny or the players of Tyranny have any plans or intentions? The reporter asked. Here, the reporter purposefully emphasized the players of Tyranny. All the reporters peeked intentionally or unintentionally towards Zhang Jiali. It was like how all the players of Tyranny cared about him when they lost. The reporters knew that Zhang Jiali would be the one who was impacted the most by this loss. The same as always, in the end, Han Wenqing replied in such a brief manner. However, the reporters cared too much about this matter, and no longer cared if they were being cruel. One of them finally named specifically in his question. I would like to ask for Zhang Jiao's personal opinion, would you like to say something? Me? Zhang Jiali looked at the reporters below when he was named. He even gave a laugh as he said, "Aren't I already used to this?" The reporters were startled. This was a self-deprecating joke, but no one was able to laugh. Did he make this kind of joke because he had lost heart? However, then they heard Zhang Jiali continue to speak. As for the future, it's what our captain said, the same as always. Nicely summarized. The same as always, Lin Jingyan nodded. The reporters originally wanted to ask Lin Jingyan as well, but when he showed the same attitude, they fully understood. Even though this was a painful loss, it wouldn't be able to strike down any of them. In the upcoming matches, they would still see these unyielding old generals continue to struggle and strive for the glory that they had been pursuing for all these years. The reporters had nothing left to ask about the finals. The other members in Tyranny weren't old players that were about to retire. Taking Zhang Jinji for example, he was part of the golden generation and was still at the peak of his career. This was why everyone's sorrowful emotions weren't targeted as deeply towards them. Next season, Yi Shu and his team Happy will be in the alliance. With how the league is usually arranged, it's very likely for them to be matched with Tyranny in the first round. Do you have anything to say to him? You guys are old acquaintances after all. The reporters started to ask questions outside of the topic. Everyone in Happy was watching the broadcast. They were all in sync as they looked towards Yi Shu. Yi Shu drank his tea calmly. Too bad. I would definitely be made fun of by that guy, Zhang Jiali muttered. What do you mean? A reporter asked immediately, but Zhang Jiali chose to stay quiet. I hope he can focus on the matches, so he won't bring trouble to everyone online, Lin Jingyan said. What do you mean by that? The reporter immediately asked again, but Lin Jingyan also chose to stay quiet. Everyone looked at Han Wenqing. Beat him. The same as always, Han Wenqing said. The same as always again. The problem is that you haven't beaten him that many times in the past. Isn't saying, the same as always, a bit inappropriate? The reporters criticized silently. Most of the information they got from Han Wenqing would include this motto. In the end, all the reporters looked hopefully towards Zhang Jinji, hoping to get some hot topics out of him. Time's up. Zhang Jinji looked at the time. We should finish. Vice Captain Zhang, could you talk a bit more about Yi Shu? The reporters wailed with grief. Unfortunately, the time was up, and Zhang Jinji cared more about the time than Yi Shu. Team Tyranny's players got up one by one and left the press conference. Chapter 1079. Happy, Champions? After Team Tyranny, the reporters interviewed Team Samsara. Defending their championship title was obviously an incredible achievement. As soon as Team Samsara went up on stage, they were met with fervent congratulations from the crowd. But after contrasting this excitement with the disappointment from Tyranny's old generals, some of the crowd felt sad, especially the old reporters that had followed glory for so many years. Han Wenqing, Lin Jingyan, Zhang Jiali. Their work always revolved around these few players. How could they not have a bit of emotional investment into them? The clash between the new and old was difficult to avoid. The joy and elation flowing from Samsara's side made it seem like it was the coming of a new era for both glory and the news scene. As for them, would they be like the old generals of the pro scene and gradually fade away? Definitely not. Everything must continue on like in the past. The old reporters suddenly felt a wave of empathy surging inside them. Immediately afterwards, the incisive questions flew towards Samsara. First of all, congratulations Team Samsara for defending your title. What I want to ask is whether or not the war of attrition employed to win the third match was chosen because you saw that the old Team Tyranny players lacked the stamina and energy to maintain their peak conditions? Yes, Zhou Zikai said. In the second match, we realized that Team Tyranny didn't seem to be too good at long wars of attrition. This is why we decided to employ this type of strategy in the third match, Zhang Batao immediately added. For touchy subjects like this, who knew how the reporters would spin these types of one-word answers from Zhou Zikai? Not good at long wars of attrition. Zhang Batao summed it up with what seemed to be a good explanation, but the crucial question about Team Tyranny's stamina issues was dodged. How could the reporters let him get by so easily? Then why do you think Tyranny isn't good at long wars of attrition? A reporter asked despite already knowing the answer. He had already made his decision. If Samsara dared to act stupid answering this question, he wouldn't let these shams go no matter what. During this period of 1 month, Tyranny played 9 intense matches for the playoffs. This must have been very exhausting. Their stamina issues in the later stages were the key to our Samsara's victory. In the end, Samsara gave a clear reply to this question. Oh, then let's say if Tyranny had only played 4 matches before the finals like Samsara and had enough time to fully recover, would that have made any impact on the results? The match would have definitely been more difficult, Zhang Batao replied. Then, do you think Samsara would have still won the finals? This reporter's questions were becoming more and more harsh. He was practically implying that Samsara had won with an unfair advantage. Competition is filled with countless variables. This is why we keep playing on stage. If you could accurately deduce the outcome of a match, then what's the point in competing? From an objective perspective, I'm not able to answer your question. However, from Samsara's position, I believe that Samsara would have won no matter who our opponents had been. Zhang Batao's reply was powerful and resonating. This reporter was clearly unable to counter it because he also knew that there was no such thing as having an unfair advantage. Every element was a part of a victory. If not, when a powerhouse beat teams due to having better players and better characters, wouldn't that also be considered as having an unfair advantage? Captain Joe, is that what you think too? Unable to make a counter-argument, the reporter immediately switched targets. He also knew that once he switched to Joe Zekai, this interview topic would stop here. Yes, Joe Zekai's reply didn't disappoint him. I have no other questions. This reporter immediately followed. Afterwards, there were no more questions with malicious intentions. Once the unoriginal questions like what are your thoughts on the victory, the reporters once again switched topics and gave a similar question to what they asked Tyranny. Next season, Yishu and his team Happy will be in the pro scene. What are Samsara's thoughts about them? Do you think Happy can succeed? When everyone in Happy heard the first part of the question, they were almost about to look at Yishu to see his reaction. But in the end, the reporter asked about Team Happy as a whole. This was different from Tyranny. The reporter had considered that Samsara was a part of a different generation than Yishu. Samsara wasn't like Tyranny, who had players that had old relationships with him. As a result, the reporter didn't concentrate on Yishu. That depends on how you define successful, Zhang Batao said. It seems like they intend on becoming the champions, the reporter said with uncertainty. PFFT. This time, quite a few people at the scene laughed. Samsara's players were sitting on stage and knew that the camera was on them, so they were able to maintain their composure. However, expressions of astonishment could clearly be seen on all of them. The reporters weren't like them. After laughing, no one waited for Samsara to reply. The reporters crowded around that poor reporter. Where'd you hear that from? The press conference erupted into an uproar. I heard a player from Heavenly Swords inadvertently leak it. When that reporter saw how everyone wanted to gnaw at him, he immediately confessed. How could someone from Heavenly Swords know? Someone asked. After the Challenger League finals, Happy stayed over at City B. They have a good relationship with Heavenly Swords and are constantly in touch with one another, that reporter immediately replied. Is what that person said reliable? Or was it just a joke? As soon as someone heard it was a private exchange, he didn't believe it. I don't know either, that reporter said bitterly. He had just overheard it while passing by. He couldn't confirm it either, so he didn't know if it was the truth or a joke. It was probably a joke. It has to be. The reporters gradually calmed down. What are Samsara's thoughts on this? A reporter suddenly remembered who the main characters were and promptly threw the question over to Samsara. Zhang Batao stared blankly. He felt like if he had to answer, he would probably say that he felt like it was a joke. Even though Happy beat Excellent Era, miracles couldn't keep happening over and over again. No, Happy's strength was still rather limited. Saying that Happy wanted to win the championships was too much. But if he actually said that it was a joke, it would be hard to avoid people from thinking that Samsara held contempt for Happy. But if he said that it was probably the truth, then it would be hard to avoid people from thinking that he was just saying fake words. This is a difficult question to answer. Zhang Batao, who had been very adept at answering questions the entire time, was actually stumped. After a long while, he finally replied, it doesn't matter what Happy's goal is. Samsara will always try our hardest and beat our opponents. The question was dodged with an ambiguous answer. However, the question had been a joke itself, so the reporter let it go. Soon afterwards, the press conference for Samsara concluded. After the crowd dispersed, quite a few reporters became reinvigorated and started opening up their address books to confirm what exactly had been said. The broadcast for the finals had ended. Everyone in Happy was still stunned from the commotion from that question. Not long afterwards, Chen Guo's cell phone rang. Chen Guo took out her cell phone. The call was from Lu Guaning. After picking it up, Chen Guo was able to get a profound understanding of how terrifying reporters could be. Didn't the press conference just end? The reporters interested in this question had already found ways to ask Heavenly Swords. One of those reporters had found a way to directly contact Heavenly Sword's boss, Lu Guaning. As a result, Lu Guaning quickly called Chen Guo, asking how he should answer. How should he answer? Chen Guo asked Yi Shu. Of course I was serious, Yi Shu said. He was serious, Chen Guo replied to Lu Guaning. Haha, how fun. Lu Guaning seemed to be looking forward to the exposure and hung up the phone with a laugh. You're not staying low profile at all. Chen Guo held her cell phone and sighed. Starting from when the Challenger League first started, Happy had been quite high profile. As soon as they began, they came out saying that they would topple Excellent Era and received quite a bit of ridicule for it. Now that they had actually done it, who knew where those haters went? But now, Chen Guo knew that when news came out with Happy's statement that their goal was to win the championships, these haters would probably come out again. The confidence from those haters would probably be even higher, no? It doesn't matter, Yi Shu said nonchalantly. In any case, no matter what happens, we have to strive for victory. For this goal, everyone is going to need to work even harder, Chen Guo encouraged the team. Of course, Steamed Bun replied excitedly. Tang Ru smiled, showing her ambitiousness. The one who couldn't stay calm was the one who was usually the calmest, Chao Yifan. Become the champions? Their next goal was actually going to be the top of glory. Chao Yifan felt like he was going dizzy. But when he saw his teammates, he knew that they weren't joking. Happy was going to be rushing for the championship title? This was all going too quickly. Okay, it's getting late. Everyone should get ready to go to bed. Chen Guo looked at the time and called out. Happy had a fairly strict work and rest schedule now. No one would be allowed to live a disorderly lifestyle like before. The memory of Yi Shu sleeping for a very long time due to exhaustion was something still fresh in her mind. Next up, they would be preparing for the Pro League. Everyone in Happy needed to be in their best state the entire time. A disciplined sleep schedule was essential. The next day, the various esports media put the finals as the lead story. Samsara defends their title. A tragic conclusion for Tyranny. But between these two teams, another team had squeezed its way in. Happy champions. The title of the story added in 3 question marks. The article itself was filled with incredulity. You could say that maybe Happy didn't understand their situation. But Happy had Yi Shu, how could he not have a good grasp of his team? You could say that he was being serious. Maybe after Happy beat Excellent Era, even Yi Shu was so excited that he couldn't tell East from West anymore? The mainstream media reports were already polite about it. But in other places, articles with titles like "This Century's Biggest Joke" quickly popped up. The various teams also soon received inquiries from the media asking about their thoughts on this matter, making all the teams feel gloomy. During this period of time, how many questions relating to Happy had they answered? What's up with this team? Chapter 1080. Splitting rewards. Aiming to be champions? Happy's statement was dismissed with a laugh by the pro teams. If it wasn't that Happy had Yi Shu, the pro teams would probably think that these guys were having delusions of grandeur after their unexpected victory against Excellent Era. However, since Yi Shu was present, they wouldn't be so childish. It's joke, right? They're probably doing this to get more publicity. They don't really need to keep coming up with these things. They already have a strong enough presence. The teams all said different things, but their tone was generally full of ridicule. Aim to be champions? The majority of the teams in the alliance wouldn't dare say this. Happy really was daring. Happy was flourishing. After obtaining a sponsorship from Fike, Happy managed to obtain another 2 more sponsors. These were all from sponsors who had always taken an interest in the Glory Alliance and didn't mind giving a share to Happy. However, they were like Fike, already sponsoring other teams in the alliance. They invested in Happy, wanting to watch how things went. With these 3 contracts, Happy had already received nearly 5 million RMB in sponsorship money. For a grassroots team, this was a very solid support. After that, the prize money for winning the Challenger League, their share of TV broadcasting revenue, their share of ticket revenue, etc., all arrived. With the amount of attention that the Challenger League received, no matter if it was the TV broadcast or the venue tickets, the revenue gained was far greater than previous years. The alliance was very sincere and generous with their competitions. The teams didn't just get prize money, but also shares of all sorts of profits. Many other competitions would just deal with this through just the prize money. Just winning the Challenger League was worth 5 million RMB. Considering the influence of the Challenger League, this was no small amount. The alliance had clearly considered how the winner would be entering the Pro League the following season. This money was also a source of support for the team. With the prize money on top of their shares for everything else, Team Happy had managed to earn over 10 million RMB through just the Challenger League alone. This showed Chen Guo exactly how financially powerful the glory scene was now. Of course, due to the special circumstances of this year's Challenger League, the shares of profit were naturally higher than previous years. With over 10 million RMB for funds, Chen Guo felt much more secure. Although the 18 million RMB earned with the materials from selling the skill point guide could have been invested into the team by Wei Chen, this was just too much. If they really invested it all into the team, Chen Guo felt that her title as the boss would be more of a title than actual reality. But now that the team had managed to earn some money on their own, Chen Guo felt much better about using it. As soon as the money arrived, Chen Guo didn't hesitate to take out the 5 million RMB in prize money and divide it up between the members of Happy. Even though Happy's players had never seemed to care much about this sort of thing, they couldn't just go with the flow and continue like this. In the past, they didn't have the funds, so they just got by like that. Now that they had gained a significant amount of profit, it definitely had to be shared. The division of this money was very overwhelming. Luo Jian and Wen Yi were both just university students. Suddenly gaining several 100,000 made them at a loss as to what to do with it. As for Yi Shu, the bank card he was given was immediately thrown into the drawer, becoming a member of his large pile of glory smurfs. Wei Chen. He was a person with 18 million RMB in his hands. After obtaining the several 100,000, he simply nodded, saying nonchalantly, not bad. Chen Guo wanted to hit him for that. Tang Ru smiled, thanking Chen Guo as she accepted the bank card, not at all intending to decline it. However, Chen Guo knew that she had even more of a right than Wei Chen to act nonchalant. Chen Guo looked down on Wei Chen for his response. Then, that night, after everyone had gone to bed, Chen Guo realized that Tang Ruo had forgotten her card on the table and nearly cried. With a weak password like 123,456, anyone could just take the card and the money. My lady, you were never this careless with Soft Mist's account card. Steamed Bun, having been a bouncer before for an internet cafe, had very little wealth. He was delighted with the sum of several 100,000, and emotionally exclaimed that he had truly found a good boss. His future was really bright. Wu Chen and Chao Yifan came from pro teams. Wu Chen was even the ace of his team. Although his team had been rather weak and their income couldn't compare to the gods, getting several 100,000 a year wasn't hard. Chao Yifan was a rookie, so he wouldn't have that high of an income, but since he was a part of a powerhouse team, he had a good understanding of their scene. This prize money was nothing unexpected for him. Chen Guo had been a little hesitant when giving Mo Fan his share. Mo Fan rarely went on the field and Chen Guo had split the prize money evenly, not bothering with taking contribution into account. In these beginning stages, the team was still growing in many ways and Chen Guo felt that this sort of thing was far too troublesome to deal with. Plus, Yi Shu, who had made the greatest contributions, had agreed with her decision wholeheartedly. Then what was there to worry about? It was those like Luo Ji and Wu Chen, who hadn't had much playtime, that felt a little bad about getting the same as everyone else, but they still ended up accepting the money under Chen Guo's resolute attitude. Chen Guo's hesitation towards Mo Fan was because she wasn't sure about him. In truth, it was because they didn't interact and therefore, she had no idea what that guy was thinking. She didn't know if he was planning on staying with Happy on their journey. But on the other hand, Mo Fan had stayed with them throughout this year. It had nothing to do with what he would do in the future. Although he had made limited contributions, he shouldn't be left out if everyone got it. Therefore, Mo Fan ended up with an equal share. After hearing the amount, he had uncharacteristically shown a hint of shock. It seemed like he didn't come from a wealthy background either. There was another, who was resolute in declining this money. Sun Jeping. Chen Guo called him about transferring his share of the money over, but Sun Jeping, who had already left happy, simply laughed and told her not to bother before directly hanging up. That was too generous, wasn't it? Chen Guo didn't want to give up, but then Yi Shu had said, there's no need. He isn't someone who will change his mind. Chen Guo, holding the final card, didn't really know what to say. Yi Shu glanced at her. Did you forget your own share? Chen Guo was stunned for a moment. She really hadn't thought about herself. Even if she did, she wouldn't think she deserved a share. Just take it as leftovers. For the capitalist, Yi Shu said. Hey, who are you calling a capitalist? Chen Guo objected. Happy was dividing up their small reward while over with the alliance, the champions had been decided and were receiving all their large rewards. The Alliance Championship prize money was, considering the influence of the Glory Alliance, a very small amount, only 10 million, twice as much as the Challenger League. Apart from that, there were rewards for regular season rankings, but the amount was even less substantial. 20 teams, a total of 16,800,000. With the money split according to ranking, the highest-ranked team only received 1,600,000. The last-ranked team received a measly 80,000. It was obvious that the alliance no longer depended on prize money to sustain itself. 10 million RMB in prize money? That definitely wasn't the reason any team fought so hard. What everyone sought was the glory that the championship trophy represented. What teams depended on for survival were things such as broadcasting profits, sponsorships, ticket fees, and similar forms of revenue. And these forms of revenue were affected by the influence the team had. As for the most direct way of increasing their influence, it was winning the championships. Happy's Challenger League championship victory had brought them all sorts of income. In reality, this was a perfect example of the current system. The season came to a close with the champions decided. However, because of this year's update, there had been a break in the middle of the season, so once the championships ended, July soon arrived. The players of the pro teams began their holiday, but the summer transfer window opened and the managers of the clubs began to get busy. Over with Happy, the press conference Fike had wanted to hold, but never had the chance to, finally occurred, officially declaring their sponsorship of Happy. Even though they weren't giving much funds, with Happy's current popularity, they managed to do something big with very little cost. Fike was very satisfied with their investment. In this press conference, Happy had taken the chance to announce Su Mucheng's free transfer. This wasn't unexpected for anyone, but, following that, the announcement that Dancing Rain was coming to Happy with Su Mucheng was big news. Dancing Rain was an all-star level account. A grassroots like Happy somehow had the courage to obtain it. It looked like their goal to win the championships wasn't a joke. Su Mucheng was free transferring, so naturally there was no transfer fee. But the media was enthusiastically discussing Dancing Rain's transfer fee. However, in the contract for Dancing Rain's transfer, the transfer fee had an NDA protecting it. Dao Zhan had obviously not wanted the special price for Dancing Rain to affect the sale of Excellent Era. If everyone thought that Excellent Era was doing a huge clearance sale and came with offers of just a few 100,000, Dao Zhan would probably die crying. With Su Mucheng and Dancing Rain, Team Happy suddenly seemed far stronger. Counting Yi Shu, Happy was a team with 2 all-star level players. Not even half the teams of the Alliance had such a lineup. What moves would Happy make next? The day the summer transfer window opened, Happy had unexpectedly become the main show. The media was making all sorts of guesses. Excellent Era was also a hot topic. The transfer window was open and Team Excellent Era had quite a lot of characters and players. After so long, the transfers should have come to the end of their negotiations. Where would they all go? As for the golden generation that everyone had once been clustered around, they weren't much of a topic anymore these days. This year was the second year where the golden generation would have to renew their contracts, so everyone had been attentively waiting to see if any would leave their teams. But in the first half of this year, all the teams had declared that the players of the golden generation wouldn't be leaving their teams, apart from Su Mucheng and Xiao Shiken, who were unknowns back then. Now, Su Mucheng had joined Happy. What about Xiao Shiken? Where would he go? As someone who could also free transfer, he had a lot of choices. But before any news about Xiao Shiken came out, Excellent Era's first bomb, since the news that it was being sold, fell. Sun Shang, One Autumn Leaf. The two were transferring to Team Samsara for 28 million RMB.